Right, so for today's live lab, we are making copper in a beaker. I'll be combining aluminum and copper 2 chloride in a solution and reacting those two to produce copper in the lab. The goals of this experiment today is for you to be able to identify limiting and excess reactants in a chemical reaction, to be able to conduct actual theoretical and percent yield calculations, and also to be able to conduct calculations to determine the amount of excess reactant that's left over after reaction has gone to completion. Okay, so in this reaction, we will be combining aluminum wire and copper 2 chloride dihydrate, which I will measure out in its crystalline form. So it will be a hydrate to start off with. So you will need to include the dihydrate as part of its molar mass in your stoichiometry calculations. However, once I add the copper 2 chloride dihydrate to solution, the water just becomes part of the dance floor of chemistry. So you will not need to include the waters as part of the overall balanced equation that you'll be writing. When the aluminum and the copper 2 chloride react, one of the metals is going to replace the metal ion in the salt, and we are going to be able to produce copper and a new ionic solution. The copper will form as little red pieces of powder along the aluminum wire. So to answer the pre-lab questions, we're going to take a look at those. So the first question asked, what type of reaction are we performing in this lab? Keeping in mind that we are reacting the element aluminum with copper 2 chloride, an ionic compound. To figure out which element is more reactive, you will need your activity table off of the back of your purple sheet, or you can use an internet resource or the textbook to figure out is it aluminum or copper that is more reactive. Number 3, you're writing a balanced equation for the reaction to be carried out, including states of matter, keeping in mind that you will not include the dihydrate waters that are part of the initial salt. Those waters just become part of the water solution. So you'll write the balanced equation with states of matter and predicting the products. So the procedure today, you will see me massing out the copper 2 chloride dihydrate. It's not exactly 2 grams, so make sure that you record the exact mass that I started with. I will also record the actual mass of a piece of aluminum wire. Then you will need to go ahead, I will actually have you go ahead and do some calculations to predict which is going to be the limiting and which one is going to be the excess reactant. We are going to dissolve the copper 2 chloride in distilled water in a beaker and allow that reaction to go to completion. I will remove the wire and recover the copper, allowing it to dry overnight. Then you have the task of finishing all of the calculations. You will need to create a data table to record the masses in as you watch the live lab. To do that, you're going to go to Insert in the menu and then Table, and then you can choose the number of columns and number of rows that you feel that you need to be able to record the required data. You also need to include titles for the columns and the rows. The masses that must be recorded include the mass of the initial copper 2 chloride dihydrate, the mass of the aluminum wire before, after, and then you'll calculate the difference in mass after the reaction is done, and then the mass of the recovered copper. Okay, we are going to now watch the video of the live lab.